But what Gary and I have decided to do is just open it for questions of any kind that you would like to ask, and we will just deal with the rest of the time with me that way. So why don't we start?
I want to know how you do that detoxification yourself without any equipment, and how do I learn to do that?
It grew out of the work that I did with the dowser, and we developed energy circuits, which I talk about, I think, in chapter 3 or 4 of the and basically. Because of that, I knew that if I put hands on the body, or I felt, that if I put hands on the body in a certain way, I would move energy beneficially in the body and heal stress. If I put them in a reverse way, I would create an upset and tensions, etc. And I did a variety of experiments with those sorts of things. I found that in fact, if I just sat with my palms closed, watching television or something, sleeping or whatever, just casually while I'm doing something else, and not just the tips of the fingers, but the actual palm to palm, then I would feel energy flow in the circuit of the body, the upper circuit of the body, up the arms and across the trunk and down, and it would go around, and the more that happened, it seemed as if the resistance was lower and more energy was flowing because my hands always felt warmer and I was able to do more. And then my son would have some headaches or something, and I would say, let's try your sunglasses, or I would do two things. I'd sort of put left hand in the front of his head and the right hand at the base of his brain, and that would help him. But if he put the sunglasses back on, his headaches would come back. I'd say, well, give me the sunglasses, and take the sunglasses. And I would initially use this dowsing wand thing I mentioned before and just discharge it into a jar of poisons. Okay? But then eventually I just didn't want to go that way because I wanted to build myself, and so I would then take the glasses and hold them in my hand, and I would just discharge it. Every once in a while I would crack my wrist, because what happens is the energy flows through. It seems to build up at the joints. So I would just crack the joints, and that would allow the flow to continue. And so I would just move it over the parts of the object, and eventually I would feel it would be discharged and give it back to him, and headache's gone. And so the same thing with the apple or fruit or whatever. So it's really a kind of adjunct to the healing process. And there's some knowledge that's useful, which is in the book. But there is the intention to try and to do it. Okay, and then just practice. And this thing I found was useful to come upon that. And you can do the same thing with your feet to build the foot circuit. And dealing with the palm chakras, this one, and the other with the feet chakra.
How long did you hold those?
Well, I mean, I did it. The point is, this thing is it's not a short-term thing. It becomes a life process. And I'll give you an example of what I meant. I'll give you a couple of examples. In the 60s, in the 50s and the 60s, whenever it got cold and damp, or I would overwork, and I have a tendency to overwork, I would get back pains, lower back pains. And I would have to go to a chiropractor every year. And I would go for about 3 months. The first month, 3 times a week. Second month, twice a week. Third month, once a week. And I thought, oh, hell, I'm just tired of this stuff. Here I'm doing all this energy stuff. Why don't I try it on myself? So I get disciplined at times, and so I get up in the morning. The first thing I do is I sit on the toilet, and I start with my hands as high up on my back as I can reach, hold them there for maybe a minute. In the beginning, maybe 2 minutes, and then down a palm width, and then down a palm width, and down a palm width, all the way down to the coccyx. And I did that every morning and every night, the last thing before going to bed at night. I didn't have to go to the chiropractor for 20 years. Okay? And I built, again, it's pumping and practice and doing. You could feel the innervation going on. So it's part of the process. Another one, which is again simple, and you guys do it with all your tapping, I was having trouble with my eyes and driving with glasses and stuff, and it was problematical. And someone told me, well, gee, the Chinese, when they have those problems, they start working on acupuncture points, and so there are acupuncture points. So I would start massaging this point about 15 times each way, and then this set of points, and then this set of points, and then this set of points, and this set of points, and then around the eye. And I would do that at the same time when I was doing this, and two things in parallel, and I see better now than I did 20 years ago. And so, again, there are just these kinds of things that you can do for yourself. And the more you do, the more you can do. And most recent experience was the one with being involved with the heart math people and the work there of focusing on the heart and really the thymus, for me to feel the thymus and to love different portions of the body. And I find it isn't necessary to use the hands. You just basically can direct it to those places on the body. If I'm out walking and I start getting a Charlie horse, I keep walking and say, love for that right calf, love for that right calf, love for that right calf, and be in my heart, and so on. And if I'm somewhere else, then I do the same thing. I don't know what words to use, etc., but just do that, and that helps focus the energy there, and it works.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. How long do you hold this palm thing to get your hands' energy going?
Oh no, I don't hold it. I mean, that was what I did 20 years ago when I wanted to increase the capacity to pump energy. Once you, I mean, it's a process that once you build the capacity to pump energy, I mean, you got it. You're opening your chakras, your palm chakras. No, not anymore. I sometimes do it just because I like it. Sometimes I even sleep that way just because I like it. The energy flow, if I constricted it all in my chest, then I will do that, and then it will just open up and loosen. But it's, I look at it just like muscle building, and it's just practice, just diligent practice. No big deal.
I just realized now why before I go to sleep I crack my knuckles.
Okay.
And it's the only time I do it. It's Now I have an explanation to give to my wife.
You think she'll believe you?
Yeah. I'd like to ask you a question relating this to therapy. What Gary said before and what you mentioned about there's a person, the therapist or a practitioner, client, and universe.
Yeah. And sometimes there's an instrument.
Okay. At different times, at different places. Now, if you had one client and 5 therapists simultaneously doing intention, taking in of information, surrogate muscle testing, and you have 5 different responses or 5 different points or whatever it is you're focusing on, in practical terms, what are you saying about what that person needs? Are you looking at just different aspects, all roads may lead to Rome? And also, is it then become the truth, what you're resonating with, the part of the gestalt that you're picking up? How do you explain that?
It's a very complicated question that you've asked. And so let me try it this way. If you take 5 individuals and you train them by the same, really rigorously train them by the same techniques, and you ask them to be disciplined and only use